Hey everyone! Imagine this. You're sitting there, thinking about all those happy memories from old TV shows like The Andy Griffith Show or movies like Apollo 13, and suddenly Ron Howard, the guy who seems like he's had the perfect life, opens up about the pain he's been hiding for years. Just 1 minute ago, in a brand new interview, Ron shared some really sad details that will make your heart ache. He talked about a tough choice he made back in 1991 that still hurts him today, how he almost lost a family member to drugs while he was busy winning big awards, and that scary time on a movie set when his body just couldn't take it anymore. Those missing months? What really happened is so emotional it might bring tears to your eyes. Stick with me as I tell you Ron's story, from his early days as a little kid on screen to the hidden struggles that shaped who he is now. It's a tale full of love, hard work, and some really tough moments that remind us nobody's life is as perfect as it looks. Let's go back to the beginning. Ron Howard was born on a cold day in March 1954, right in the middle of Oklahoma, in a town called Duncan. From the very start, his life was wrapped up in movies and TV. His dad, Rance, had changed his last name to Howard years before, dreaming of being an actor even while he served in the Air Force. His mom, Jean, was an actress too, and they got married in Kentucky back in 1949. When little Ron came along, his dad was still wearing a uniform, juggling Army duties with hopes of making it on the big screen. But get this, Ron didn't even wait until he could walk or talk properly before he stepped in front of a camera. At only 18 months old, he appeared in a Western movie called Frontier Woman, shot sometime between the end of 1955 and early 1956. That wasn't just a cute baby role, it was the spark that lit up his whole life, where playing pretend became as normal as breathing. While other kids his age were stumbling around playgrounds, Ron was learning how to stand just right under bright lights, listening to directors call out instructions. As TV shows started popping up more in California, Ron's family decided to make a big move. They left Oklahoma behind, with his dad driving them all the way to the sunny state, not for vacations or beaches, but to be close to where all the action was happening in television. Ron was still a tiny toddler, but being in California meant he was right next to people who made shows, wrote stories, and built sets, all before he even started school. He got small parts in things like Playhouse 90, and by the time his little brother arrived in April 1959, right there in Burbank, the family was starting to make it work. They handled their money carefully, without fancy helpers or big studios telling them what to do. His dad took on tons of roles himself, over 140 in movies and 177 on TV. Not to become a superstar, but to stay near Ron and keep things steady. It was like his dad was the captain of their little ship, steering them through the busy world of Hollywood. Then, on a crisp October evening in 1960, when Ron was just 6 years old, everything changed. That's when the world first met Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show. Ron was listed as Ronnie Howard in the credits, but something special happened on that set. His dad didn't just bring him there and leave. He spoke up to the writers and producers. After hearing some early lines, he said the dad-son moments sounded too made up, not real at all. Andy Griffith, the star, really listened and agreed to make their on-screen bond just like the real one between Ron and his dad. That simple agreement gave the show its heart, making it feel warm and true. Over the years, his dad even popped up as a guest 5 times, always close by while Ron dealt with long scripts and busy days that would tire out most adults. For 8 whole seasons until 1968, Ron didn't just grow taller, he grew up inside this made-up small town, learning about kindness, hard work, and what it means to carry big responsibilities even as a kid. Their house in Burbank wasn't fancy like a movie star's mansion. They ate simple meals like meatloaf or fish sticks, and they saved every penny because they knew fame could vanish quick. Scripts sat around the kitchen table, but their parents had strict rules. No outsiders watching over him, no pushy parent drama. Ron played baseball in the park league when he wasn't learning lines. His brother Clint started acting too, quietly building up over 200 roles. They weren't more than brothers.
They were like teammates in this big game called show business, figuring out early on how to show up on time and do the job right. Ron didn't learn to act by accident. His dad taught him the basics, how to really listen to others, when to pause for effect, and how to react like a real person instead of just pretending. When he got the Opie role, it was because he didn't try to be all cute and showy like some kid actors. He just acted natural, telling the truth in every scene. The producer, Sheldon Leonard, spotted that right away and said Ron stood out because he wasn't forcing it. That came from his dad's lessons. Be honest, not adorable. Even as a little 6-year-old, it made a huge difference. His pay started small, maybe a couple $100 per episode, but as the show got popular, it grew. He was still losing his baby teeth when people in town started asking for his autograph. But behind that smiling face on TV, Ron was missing out on a regular kid's life.
One scene that sticks with everyone happened in 1963, in the fourth season's first episode called Opie the Birdman. Ron was 9, playing a boy who accidentally kills a bird and then raises her babies. There were no fancy tricks or big drama. He just stood there, breathing and feeling it for real. The director hardly needed extra takes because Ron nailed it. Andy Griffith later said it was like watching a grown-up actor with perfect timing. Ron had a trick. He'd think of something sad from his own life to make the emotion come out, then shake it off when the camera stopped. That took a kind of strength most kids don't have. But even with all the nice people on set, Ron felt lonely sometimes. He called it a pretty cage, safe but trapping him inside. He had a tiny classroom on the lot following rules that said 3 hours of school and no more than 8 hours total each day. A helper watched to make sure he was okay, but he didn't have real friends to play with at recess. He'd do homework while workers moved equipment around. At lunch, he'd eat with his dad or the guys who handled props. Andy might strum a guitar and another actor would tell funny stories without bad words. They tried to make it feel like home, but Ron missed running around with neighborhood kids or riding bikes after school. He never whined about it, but deep down it hurt. In 1962, a new challenge came with a movie called The Music Man. Ron was 8 and played a boy named Winthrop Peru in this big musical. But here's the thing, he couldn't sing well and dancing was tough for him. The music teacher spent hours helping him with the song Gary, Indiana. During one dance part, Ron got so scared he whispered to his co-star Shirley Jones that he couldn't do it. She calmed him down and the crew filmed him carefully, adding sounds later. It turned out great, and his sweet, shy acting helped make the movie a huge hit that year. What people didn't see was how much he worked behind the scenes. He'd memorized not just his lines, but everyone else's too. He'd play with toys, acting out whole scenes like a mini director. To Shirley, it looked like he was born to call the shots someday. His dad had already written stories for shows like The Flintstones, teaching Ron how to pick apart a scene and understand why characters say what they do. Those quiet lessons stuck with him, waiting until he was ready to direct his own movies, like one called Grand Theft Auto when he was only 23. By 1966, Ron wanted to try something fresh. He joined a Western TV show called The Monroes, filmed way out in the Rocky Mountains of Wyoming. It was real adventure, learning to ride horses from actual cowboys, dealing with tough weather. But making it cost a lot, and after 26 episodes, the network stopped it in 1967. Ron was 13, and for the first time, he felt like he'd failed. He blamed himself even though it wasn't his fault. That feeling lingered, teaching him that not everything works out. Around 1968, he got offered a chance to try out for the Brady Bunch, but he said no. Actually, his parents decided for him. They had a family rule that one of them always had to be home during the day. They wanted balance, a chance for Ron to be a normal teen. He agreed. At 14, he wanted friends and school more than another show. Looking back, that choice might have helped him because by 1974, he landed the role of Richie Cunningham on Happy Days, which gave him the boost to start directing. In 1979, something smart happened. Ron's agent worked out a deal for him to get money from reruns of The Andy Griffith Show, about $50,000 a year. That was more than some famous baseball players made. But his family didn't go crazy spending it. They saved, bought safe investments, and kept living simply. Ron once talked his parents into letting him put money into a go-kart place with buddies, but it lost $25,000. Ouch. That taught him about being careful with cash. Acting brought in the dollars, but handling them right was a whole other skill.
On April 1st, 1968, the last episode of The Andy Griffith Show aired. Ron was 14, and saying goodbye to that set felt heavy. He knew every corner, every person. The final days were full of keepsakes like people taking home papers from the set. He and Andy talked about sports late into the night. Their television farewell was simple, but inside, Ron knew a big part of his childhood was over. He'd spent almost all his young years so close to cameras. Now he had to figure out being a regular teen, balancing school with new tryouts. Fast forward to 1974, Ron was 19 when he met producer Gary Marshall for Happy Days. He didn't overdo the audition, he just acted natural, like ordering a soda at a diner. His spark with Henry Winkler was real from the start. The network worried Ron looked too old to play a teen, but Marshall fought for him. He signed on for $7,500 an episode, beating out dozens of others by being the kind of guy who'd be nice to everyone. That led to 255 episodes of fun, but by season 5 in 1977, it started feeling off. Ron was 23, stuck playing a happy-go-lucky kid while the world outside was tough with wars like Vietnam on the news. He wrote a note to the bosses asking to add real stuff, like a story about the draft. They said no, too scary for sponsors. So they snuck in little hints, like Richie glancing at war headlines. Ron felt trapped, like he couldn't show real feelings. That pushed him to want more. He didn't just want to act, he wanted to direct, to have say in the stories. In 1976, Fonzie fever was huge. Jackets, toys, everything making millions. The network even wanted to rename the show after him. Ron remembered his dad's fights for fair credit, so he stood firm. Making $15,000 per episode, he said he'd quit if they changed it, risking a big lawsuit. Marshall backed him, saying the show was about family. They kept the name, but gave Fonzie top spot in credits. It was a win Ron earned quietly. Then, in October 1977, Ron got to direct an episode called My Fair Fonzie. With a small budget of $10,000 and tons of scenes, he planned every shot like a pro. One long camera follow through the diner saved money and looked amazing. Ratings went up, millions watched. The network let him do more, paying extra. Henry said Ron pushed him to be real, not just funny lines.
Around then, Ron made a deal with a low-budget filmmaker. He'd act in Eat My Dust if he could direct the next one. That became Grand Theft Auto in 1977, written with his dad. On a tiny $602,000 budget, they smashed 70 cars, including fancy ones, filming on real roads without always asking permission. It made $15 million back, a huge success. Ron used family and friends in it, proving he could handle chaos and make money. Released in June 1977, it showed the world he was more than the kid from TV. Ron married his high school love, Cheryl Alley, on June 7, 1975, when they were both 21. Henry was best man, with Andy and others there. They set a rule, no shop talk at meals, that lasted decades. Cheryl acted a bit but kept their home steady while Ron worked. When their first baby came, Ron rushed from set to hospital. He always said she was his real anchor. In 1982, Ron directed Night Shift, a wild story about guys using a morgue for sneaky business. With Henry and new guy Michael Keaton on $8 million, it made $21 million. Keaton's energy was fresh. Test crowds loved it, despite the edge. It got award nods and showed Ron could do grown-up comedy. Then, Splash, in 1984, with Tom Hanks and Daryl Hannah as a mermaid love story. Disney's first adultish film. Budget $8 to $11 million, made nearly $70 million. Daryl did her own swims, the tale was heavy. They changed the sad ending after tests, wives hated it, so Hanks jumps in. Critics raved, Oscar nod, Hanks starred up. For Ron, it was proof he could hit big. After that, in November 1985, Ron and Brian Grazer started Imagine Entertainment. They went big, going public, signing deals. Offices got fancy, but results shone. Dozens of Oscars, hundreds of Emmys, billions in earnings. 1995's Apollo 13 was epic. $52 million budget, real NASA gear cheap. They flew in zero-gravity plane for real weightless shots, 612 takes. Explosion scene cost a lot, singed an actor once. Ron worked non-stop 18 hours daily for months. On day 90, he fell ill, dehydrated, high blood pressure. Set paused, crew supported him. Movie made $355 million, 9 Oscar nods, 2 wins. But it nearly broke him.
showing the cost of perfection. Then a flop, 1999's Ed TV. $80 million, made $50 million. Similar to another film, critics panned it. Ron skipped another project for it, lost money, but he bounced back with Imagine buzzing. 23 projects, big deals. In 2001, A Beautiful Mind on $58 million. Ron made hallucinations feel real. No tricks, just trust the story. Shot in order, back to Princeton often. Made $313 million. 4 Oscars, including his for directing. But critics noted missing dark parts of Nash's life, like affairs, a son left behind. Still, it touched hearts. 5 years later, 2006's The Da Vinci Code, $125 million. Tom Hanks. Churches banned filming, recreated digitally. Costly fakes for art. Made $758 million despite drama. But personal pain hit hard. In 2017, Ron's dad Rance died in '89, months after Mom Jean. Rance, born 1928, was a farm kid turned actor in everything from Ron's films to TV. Emmy nod, too. Ron grieved the man who taught him humility. 2008's Frost Nixon, $25 to $29 million. Captured tense interviews. Studied real tapes. 5 Oscar nods, but lost money at $28.5 million. Ron married Cheryl. Wait, I earlier said Nancy. Oops, it's Cheryl. At 21. Rule no work at dinner. Raised 4 kids. Bryce, 1981. Twins Jocelyn and Paige. Reed. Ron regretted directing Bryce's play Young. Pushed her into acting. She forgave, became star, but brother Clint's addiction in the 80s hurt. Cocaine, alcohol, Ron said rehab or goodbye. Clint recovered. In memoir, Ron felt guilty for his success shadowing Clint. 1991. Jocelyn born, but Ron left for 6 months filming Far and Away in Ireland. Came home, kids changed, barely knew him, shook him, promised no long trips. Broke it in 2005 for Cinderella Man reshoots, missed more. In 2025, for 50th anniversary, donated a bench to school, confessed regrets. Cheryl wished he'd seen costs sooner. 2020, Hillbilly Elegy, $45 million Netflix. Critics hated, Razzie nod, but Glow's got noms. Same year, Rebuilding Paradise doc on Deadly Fire. Hardest Project, filmed year Momstown affected. 2025, Eden Thriller, $55 million, big cast, but bombed at $1 million opening. Creative risk, anxiety high. 2018, Solo Star Wars, took over, reshot 70%, bombed. Almost quit directing. Daughter pulled him back. Now Apple projects. By 2025, 50 years married, Imagine 40 years, 50-plus films, tons of awards, $200 million plus worth. Mentors others, remembers regrets like missed family time. Ron's story shows, behind smiles, pain hides. The 1991 choice to leave for work, Clint's addiction while Ron won, body breakdown on Apollo were devastating. But he keeps telling stories, humble from Dad's lessons. If this touched you, hit like, share with friends. Subscribe for more emotional tales. Thanks for watching.